Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the VIP podcast. I am your host today, Heath Sharon. I'll be joined momentarily by my co-host in Sid Rowe. Today we are re-releasing another webinar that you guys have had so much fun with the other ones. We thought we'd put this one out too. This one is all things AI and not like you think of. This is AI from a standpoint of how to implement it, how to get your team on board with it, what solutions that you need for your team, how to identify those needs that you have, all of those things when it comes to setup. And then we dive into some examples and some fun there. Guys, we literally wrote the ebook on all things AI. You enjoyed the ChatGPT one. Now we're putting this one out. I'm going to slide out of the way because I'm excited for you to check this one out. Kick that music, Chad, and let's get into it. Just a quick agenda slide. We're going to get into assessing the need for AI in your agency, the importance of the data, the implementation, that's a hard word for me to say apparently, of AI, the AI tools to help you grow. And we're going to really dive in there a little bit to help you know where to start, what tools to get into. Sid, are you ready to dock it out? Let's rock and roll here.
Yeah.
My pumpedness is at a level 10.
Oh man. Okay. I'm going to try and deliver here. Big shoes to fill. So just wanted to start out for everyone grounding on what artificial intelligence is and how far we've come in the last couple of years, because it isn't what it was a few years ago. So for those of you who are just kind of entering this world, right? There's a couple different versions of AI that you're hearing about today, and they're all interrelated, connected with each other. That graphic on the left-hand side shows their relationships with each other. So artificial intelligence is really the biggest umbrella under which everything falls, right? It's where we started in this world. And there's a lot of limitations to the traditional understanding of artificial intelligence, mostly around, and again, I'm not a technical expert on this, so I just know my research on it, and then of course talking to our product teams and our AI committee that we have internally. But essentially, AI, the traditional version, is all about replicating what a human would do, right? And so there's really no ability for traditional AI to come up with new information, new insights, new anything. It is just taking a model that you give it and then saying, okay, well, based off the fact that we did these three things this way before, I'm going to do it a fourth way exactly the same way, right? Then you get into, and I would actually group machine learning and deep learning into one category. There are some differences. You get to a really technical level, which we're not at today, that make these two different circles in the Venn diagram. But think of them as one circle, right? Machine learning is where we take those the replication of human intelligence in AI, but we actually start to create some limited new information, really, really limited scope here, right? So mostly around predictive insights. When you hear about, hey, my system is now actually showing me what cross-sell opportunities I should be working on. It's helping me prioritize my tasks.
Well, you could think about like Netflix or like Amazon recommending. Go ahead. You were on a roll there.
Nailed it, dude. Yeah, that's really machine learning. And then deep learning is a more accurate version of machine learning. Then we get to generative AI. And this just, when OpenAI launched ChatGPT, just blew open the doors on what was actually possible with more complex versions of artificial intelligence. And this is where we're actually able to create new information, right? If you used DALL-E, it's actually creating new images that have never existed before. It's putting information that already exists together and then creating something entirely new. And so, you think about this from the technology standpoint, And there's all kinds of crazy ways that we can start to implement Gen AI. We'll get into that a little bit later as to how
Yep.
Vertafore is starting to play with that. But ChatGPT or Dolly are great examples just out in the real world, out in society today, that aren't insurance specific. So hopefully that gives everybody just a good place to ground on the different versions of AI and where we are today.
Yeah, and if you're using a Microsoft or a Google, as a search engine, there's also some features there outside of ChatGPT, whether it's Copilot or Gemini. And so you could, and even now the new iPhones, I think, have that Gen AI feature and some of that kind of stuff. And I've seen it now on Facebook and some of the other things you're using every day. So there's some really cool stuff. I can't wait for us to dive into some more of this. So at first, first of all, before I get any further, I do have a quick poll just to test you guys out a minute. I just launched it. Before we dive in too deep, what are your honest feelings about AI right now? I'd love to see if you guys could go ahead and start answering this. Again, it's going to help us and help you if we can get the most. I like to always aim for 80 to 85% participation. So I'm going to keep this up for a minute because I want to hear your feedback on all of these things. So, where I want to go, it looks wow. Keep going. We're at about half of you guys.
Wow, look at that. Oh man, you guys are
Crushing.
crushing it.
Keep going. We're at 65%. I need a little bit more from you. Oh, you guys are amazing. We about got a good enough data set here. I feel like I'm a little surprised. I don't know if you could see this, Sid, but I'm a little surprised.
I am too.
So I'm gonna stop this in 3 more%. Come on, give me 2 or 3 more people here so I can stop this poll. Come on now. If you haven't answered, there we go. Come on. A few more of you. Okay, so what we want to dive into is how to get into some of this and what to do. Okay, we're at 80%. I'm gonna stop the poll and share some results here. But what it looks like here is the largest percentage you guys understand you need to embrace it, but just not where to even start. So I'm glad we're starting here of where to start.
Yep.
And that's kind of where we're going with this whole webinar. So you guys are right on track here. And it looks like the next was we're dipping our toes in it. So congratulations, you guys are dipping your toes into it. And then, the other ones that haven't embraced it yet are just for a fear or a lack of understanding. So hopefully at the end of this webinar, we'll be able to help you there. So good job on the polls. Stay with me here because we're gonna announce a few more and launch a few more as we go. All right. So did you stop sharing that? Okay.
I did.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. So again, where to start? Where to even begin? What I would say here is, first I would say let's talk to your team. Let's sit down with them and figure out, okay, where are some of those things that are taking the most time in your day? Where are the things that are giving you headaches? Where are the challenges within your day to day? Whether you're talking to a producer, whether you're talking to your staff and your service staff, or maybe you're talking to your accounting team, depending on the size of your agency, I would say sit down with your team first and have that discussion with them. The next thing that, as we get through some of this would be, and again, I'm going to go high level here. So if we want to dive in deeper, we can. But I would say for those who don't know where to start, to talk to your clients even. And a lot of people skip over this part. But I think it's vital, to sit down, whether you send out a Survey Monkey or some sort of poll, or you just ask them every time they visit with you or you see them or have an interaction, just talk to them a little bit about, hey, where could we improve our communication? Where could we improve in this area or that area? And they'll tell you. I figured out with clients and with people that even, when I have people ask me those types of questions, I'd love to help them out, especially if you approach it in the way of, we want to improve our customer service for you, or we want to improve our sales, cycle or whatever it might be. Asking your clients, how can we improve and where could we implement AI, or where can we implement changes? I think they're going to be really, you'll be surprised at how ready they'll be to help you. So I'm a big believer in that.
As you're switching to the next slide, I'm going to just actually have a great example from the chat that just came through. Something from Angela Wells.
Yeah.
So Angela, no, we got the question. We haven't answered it yet. She actually gave us a comment, and just so everybody's aware, when you're chatting, there's a blue drop down. It says 2 on the left-hand side, and there's a blue drop down. When you click that blue drop down, you can actually choose whether you want your comment to go to everyone, just Heath and I or to a
Yeah.
specific person. So just make sure that you've got the right person on the other side if you want it to go to everyone. So so you guys cannot see Angela's comment, but I can see it here in my chat. And she actually asked a great question around using AI to pull policy information from carriers because there are download issues. Angela, I'm well aware of the download issues. Download is an archaic form of moving data back and forth between systems. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done around the movement of data in the insurance industry. So, I think we'll talk a little bit later on once we start to get a little more grounded on what AI is and how it works. We can talk through that piece, but this is a great example of what Keith is talking about. Your team knows where the friction points are, right?
Yep.
And so it may not be an AI solution to everything, but starting to collect all these friction points from your team, from your clients, from carriers is a great place to start. So
100%. And then the last one on this side would be talk to your carriers and some of your vendors and ask them the question of like, hey, where can we communicate better with you? Where can we do better here working with you, Mr. Vendor or Mr. Carrier or Mrs. Carrier? I think that's going to help a lot in that area too. And they'll be, glad to tell you, hey, you could improve your submissions or you could improve this. And there's a great area for you to implement AI. So at a high level, these are where I would start within your agency. And then I'd also start asking the questions of, I went too far. What are the problems that we're looking to solve with AI? What are your challenges? And identify some of those use cases. Again, using the example I just used of talking to your carriers and they say, we feel like you would get better underwriting results from us or a quicker turnaround if you would improve your submission process or your how you get business to us. So we're putting together submissions and there's an opportunity for you to possibly find an AI solution or, talking to your team. If they say, we're really struggling with the intake forms and this or that, or communicating here or marketing this or that, whatever that use case could be, start looking for those and keeping a record of those. Maybe you whiteboard it, or maybe you have a Teams chat about it, whatever you might be, keep up with that somehow. Or a Slack channel, whatever it might be, figure out a way where you can keep up with those and find those use cases, identify those, with your team and or with your management team or what subset it might be. Maybe you have it broken out into different teams and maybe you have a group just for producers or just for the service staff or whatever that might be. Figure out a way to identify use cases with them. And then, I would say the next thing would be to assess your current tech stack, which again, I think Sydney's talked about this before is when the data came out, I think it's now the average agency has 8 pieces of tech in their agency. Am I right on that? So go through what you got now, whether it's, Orange products or not, obviously we hope it's all Orange products, but if it's not, figure out within that, okay, within my current tech stack, is there any of those that used, and we're going to get into this here in a little bit, use AI as a feature? And maybe you see what's in there now and say, hey, we already have AI capabilities within our current tech stack. Let's try that now. Let's look into that and see where we're at. And so, again, I think that's going to be a great opportunity. Somehow my video just turned off and I apologize for that. Okay. So then, research the potential AI solutions. Again, whether it's, within your current tech stack or some use cases, you can research and say, hey, here's a use case. Where can we go? And I would even say from that, you can use ChatGPT or Copilot or something to say, hey, here's our use cases. Here's some opportunities we see. Where could we plug in Gen AI or where could we plug in AI? And ChatGPT might tell you that. And so that may be a way for you to use AI to figure out ways to use AI. Just a little weird tip to give you. So there's that. If you guys have, I see some questions in there. I'm assuming you're answering some of those. If there's any I need to stop on,
no,
you got it?
I got it.
Okay. So then, what we get into from there would be, now that we've talked about, the challenges you've got, and we've talked about some of those things that we've talked about earlier with who to talk to with your staff and your clients and whatnot and your carriers. Now let's figure out who those stakeholders are. Once we've identified that, then you got to figure out, is this something for a management level to get involved in, take ownership in? Or is this a sales issue? Is it service staff? And, it's interesting now that I'm going through this, Sid, pulling back the curtain a little bit. we had this conversation yesterday internally of like, oh, here's our service, here's our sales, process. Where are agencies having challenges there, and where can we help them? So we're doing this internally within Vertafore, and we figure out who are those stakeholders, where are those people at. So as you're talking through your agency, you might figure out, okay, this is more of a service thing, and so then you start breaking down, okay, here's the stakeholders. The service staff is the stakeholders. So let's talk with them. Let's work with them on that, and then figure out where the other secondary and other stakeholders that are involved in the process. So trying to identify that, and then where I like to get in. This is the part I get excited about. So if I wish I had more time, I could spend an hour here. But where can they be involved? Where I will spend the most time here would be obviously in the demos is a big place where I feel like if you're agency owner listening, or if you're a management team, member on here, as you're going through and you're checking out these, products, or the products that have a feature of AI, get your team involved in the demos. Invite them to come in the process early so they can touch and feel it. Cause I remember as a former agency owner, I was disconnected in a lot of ways from the day-to-day tasks. And even as a producer, I was, in the backseat a little bit when it came to some of the service things. So if those service people, or the people that are more involved in the products you're going to be using, let them demo it. And then if you have weekly, monthly, daily sales meetings or service meetings or whatnot, get your team involved in discussions and training your other teams. So I feel like if CSR Sally is the one that's going to be using this, and the one that's been on the demos, if they're doing the training with your staff, they're going to get a lot better reception than if the agency owner or the manager might be, because they're on that equal playing field and they're your peer. And so get them involved. I think that's where I'll spend that time there, just for time. So again, hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, throw something in the chats there or the Q&A that Sid's crushing on. But I'm about to steal you from the Q&A here in a few minutes.
No
Because I
problem.
want to get involved over there. So I'll bring you in here, Sid, if there's some time for you. Like, how do you properly plan? And maybe, you've seen some of this agencies that don't have here, and maybe we could talk through some of this a little bit, but I think it all starts with that preparation. You and I have kind of discussed this over time here of, making sure they're comfortable, making sure they have that preparation instead of just, oh, shiny object, let's buy it, implement it. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, this is a great question. So a couple of things, two mainly. One is, notice that as Heath has gone through how you bring AI in, and I know there were about a quarter of the people on the call that said, I really, want to do this. I just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
Don't start with the solution. Start with the problem. Start with the pain point. Start with the challenge. That's the preparation, is doing the hard that no one else wants to do, to say, how does my business model work, and where are the friction points today? Nobody wants to call their baby ugly. We all want to think we run businesses. I totally get it. My dad has one. It's a hard thing to do, to look in the mirror, but that is where you'll find the most impact for technology solutions, including AI. Then once you set your scope, you say, okay, well, what's available today from an AI solution standpoint? 100%. And there may not be one. There may not be a solution out there. But as this technology evolves, I guarantee that there will be more and more solutions available, and you'll be ready to know when you want to attack and when you want to bring that solution in, because you'll know exactly what you're looking for. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and part of that, and you may be getting into some of this too, but I think part of that is, as you're setting the expectations and the long and short term goals of, like, recognizing you may have to punt quickly on a product, because it may not work, or it may be one of those things you need more patience to realize, okay, have we really tried out? Do we really fully understand? And I know, Sid, you might be able to help me on this, but I know there's a stat out there, and I don't know what it is. I may make it up, because most stats I feel like are, but within even our own products, let's say it's AMS 360 or QQ Catalyst, I've seen in the chats a little bit. I think there's a stat out there that most people only use up to like 60% of what the capabilities are of those systems. And so I think even within your own tech stack now, you're probably not going to use it to its fullest, extent. And so I would say, make some long-term and short-term goals of that. Hey, let's explore new features or new things that we already have. Anyhow, I don't know where you were going, but I just had to throw that in there.
Yeah. And just to reiterate, because Heidi asked what preparation is needed. The preparation is understanding your pain points and challenges and issues.
Yeah.
So it would be, looking at your processes and saying, it seems like certificates, the certificate management within my agency is a big pain point for my team. When I ask them about things that they just are frustrated doing or are bogged down doing, right? That's where we need to focus. Okay, so I know that I need to look at AI solutions or tech solutions for certificates. Maybe there's not one out there today. So I wait, right? I wait to deploy those resources until I'm ready to. That keeps you away from the shiny object syndrome. So great question, Heidi. To Heath's point previously, the maximization of tech, we have adoption. A lot of people on this call have a lot of technology. It's, are you using it? Are you using all of it? And a lot of that actually started when you bought the technology. When you bought it, did you buy it with a full understanding of what it can do for your agency? That's number one. The second piece, and this actually goes to the bullet point number 3 here, setting realistic expectations. I see so many people think that they can purchase the technology and then just turn it on and it works and it's perfect and there's no problems. That is an unrealistic expectation for bringing technology into your agency. Technology is not a toy. It is an investment that you make with your team and on your business. And so part of that investment is looking at the long term and saying, okay, I know I need to spend X amount to bring this technology in. I probably need to spend at least a quarter to half of that on, and I don't want to say that's a golden rule because the technology can be all over the place in terms of cost, but you're going to spend something on the implementation, meaning hiring a consultant, hiring a professional services team, even if it's just spending time with your team on weekly meetings or weekly calls, working through, how they're using it and holding them accountable and hearing back from, keeping that feedback loop open on whether it's actually solving the problem. That's where most people miss with technology. They miss in, one, did I actually buy the tech because it solves a real problem? And then 2, did I spend the time really implementing it properly? And so, those are just things to keep in mind when you're planning for the artificial intelligence world and bringing it in.
All right, folks, get ready because Accelerate 2025 is rolling into Charlotte, the Queen City, on May 6th through 9th.
I mean, this is the NASCAR Hall of Fame. You're going to see amazing stuff, network with a lot of like-minded people who are tech forward. This is where you want to be in May.
So take that pit stop, see what I did there at the Tech Hub, the latest InsurTech, live demos, hands-on environment where you can test drive. Whether you're looking to supercharge efficiency, tighten up your tech game, or optimize distribution management, this is where you're going to find your edge.
Join us at Accelerate 2025 in Charlotte and get ready to shift your agency into high gear.
Yeah, and I think all the things we've been talking up to this point are, some of the short-term goals that you could set to say, okay, let's identify the problem, let's identify the stakeholders, all of those things. And the long-term goals are more of the implementation part of it and looking back and saying, hey, did we solve this issue? And maybe the long-term goal is we want to shave off 3 minutes in our process for the year. We want to take off this many keystrokes, or we want to do this. And that way you can look back and assess that and say, hey, did we reach that long-term goal? I really do think that this is another place that you should really dive into before we get into some of the other things. And then I do have another quick poll. I'm just going to put this up as we continue to talk so we can keep rocking. So if you guys, I would love to know, have you sat down with your team and put a plan together for AI in your agency? I just kind of want to know high level, just get a gut check of where we are, how many people have done this, and how many people are saying no, or no, they will start now. So I'm going to put this up while we're talking. But I want to get into the importance of data.
Yes.
And
And
I
we've had
feel
so
like,
many questions come in about this. So let's go, man.
yeah, I kind of saw that. So I want to get into that.
Yeah.
So you guys keep going. I'm at 65%. I need another 15 to 20% before I close this poll down. So I'll be watching the poll while you get into data. So you guys keep letting me know where you're at on your plan for AI as Sid gets into data. I'm going to watch this poll.
Yeah. And yep, there we go. Perfect, man. Thank you for teeing me up there.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a lot of stats, and Heath said before, are the stats actually accurate? We try to share some.
I just had to throw that out there.
Gardner and McKinsey's got these ones. But I think the most important thing to remember about data in the insurance industry as a general rule of thumb is that in almost every other vertical, like outside the insurance industry, data is supportive to the product. Like think about Apple delivering iPhones to people. Now they're becoming more and more of a data company. So I feel like I was thinking cars too, but then you got Elon Musk he's wanting to be a data company. So more and more you have all these physical products that are companies that deliver physical products that are becoming data companies. But in the insurance industry, in most of these verticals, you've got a physical product, and the data supports the success of that product, whether it's the sales cycle, the marketing cycle, the customer success cycle. We're delivering a physical product, and then we're supporting the delivery of that physical product with data. In the insurance industry, it works totally different. What we do is we promise to be there for people when things go wrong. And there's no physical product. I mean, you could say like, well, rebuilding someone's house or giving them a new car. So in a way, sure. But it's within that promise that our product really resides. And that's all an actuarial algorithm, which is what? Data, right? So data is really both supportive and actually is the product in the insurance industry in a lot of ways. And I think people a lot of times miss that. It's why our jobs can be so frustrating sometimes, because we feel like we're data janitors moving this data back and forth and collecting all this data. The other piece too to remember from a data economy standpoint is you have the client over here on the left, you have the carrier on the right, and you have the agent that sits in the middle, right? Distributing the policy down from the carrier and then giving the client an amazing experience back up with the carrier. So they sit in the middle, you sit in the middle of the relationship between client and carrier, and you actually have the best view from a data perspective of the entire relationship, the entire buyer's journey, the entire, client life cycle. It's you. I mean, it is the agent that has like the best line of sight on all of that. And that comes back to, okay, well, what am I putting in my system, and what systems do I have? And am I being a good steward of that data, right? Am I actually thinking about data best practices and data management? Megan actually had a great note, a comment in the chat. She says, our biggest roadblock has been having correct data in the AMS for clients. That we're going to get into that, but part of that is understanding how your team is putting the data in the system and making sure that they're putting in accurate information and you are holding them to that standard. Megan, it is not, I need you to hear this, that concern is not unique to you. It's not unique to the insurance agency. It's not unique to the insurance industry. I can tell you right now, and maybe I should stop recording, but even Vertafore has struggles and challenges in the data accuracy department. It's just we're all on the same journey, trying to figure out how we play 100%. In this world. And the fact that you recognize that you wish you could have better data is the first step. So I'm so glad you said that. Heath, if you could hit, yeah, perfect.
I'm with you, girl. I got you. Same brain. I got you.
Did you want to hit the poll before I go into this one?
Yeah, really quickly, I'm going to share results. 64% of you had mentioned that you do not currently sit down with your team and put a plan together. So hopefully you will after this. I did have several of you that said you will now after seeing this. Thank God. If we only affect one, we've done our job. But
Sure.
yeah, if you have 25, 30 of you, 40 of you, whatever it is, are now going to, that's amazing. You know, and then the ones that I'm disappointed in, the ones that say you just buy a shiny object, figure it out on the fly. Hopefully after this webinar, you won't do that anymore, and you will hopefully have a plan before you purchase the shiny objects. I know it's so nice, and the ADHD jumps, oh, squirrels and shiny objects, but hopefully we can deter you from doing that. So that's that. I'm going to stop sharing the results and let you keep rock and rolling on how we handle the data and what we do for them.
I love it. Thanks, Ben. So just at a high level, this is actually a graphic we made to help people understand how we clean up the data that goes into Risk Match, which is our analytics solution, and why we can say that we have a 99% accuracy rate with the data, the visualizations, the dashboards that exist within Risk Match. So when you look at those, we want you to be able to trust the numbers that you're seeing. So over on the left-hand side, you can see that there's a number of solutions, right? And there's more or less of this depending on the agency model, a lot of times more. So those are the categories of the tech: an agency management system, a customer relationship management system, a rater, you have a sales automation tool, e-signature, all different kinds of things. So we bring that data right now on the left-hand side. The data just sits in each one of those systems on an island. And it's not joined together, right? And so what we do is we actually can pull, there's a little cloud over in the middle, we pull that data into a lake, right? A data lake, and we merge it together, okay? So when we do that, we start to see inaccuracies, to Megan's point, in the data. And so like you might see over down on the third bubble, you'll see the number 2678. And in that field, you can see that someone actually put the comma in the wrong place. It says 26,78 when it should really say 2,678. And it happens. So we have to fix that. You also see people either shorthanding or misspelling things. Or you see wrong addresses. The other really interesting thing about merging data together, and you'll see this down in the lowest bubble there, is just different versions of the same information. So Hartford, some people spell it HRTFD. Some people don't capitalize it, but spell it out. Some people get really happy and type like my grandma, and they just hit caps lock and just go after it. Hartford, right? And so what we have to do is we have to pick the best version of all of these, and it might be one that doesn't exist, and say, hey, these are just languages, right? Here's Spanish, French, Latin, whatever. We're communicating the same thing, but we want to translate it into English, right? So that everyone who's looking at the data can understand it, right? And so that's what we do when we talk about data accuracy, data cleanliness. Some of it's just cleaning the data up in terms of mistypes and spelling errors. And then some of it is actually, looking at the data sets and trying to standardize or turn it into, think about like one language, right? So it's a lot of the work that we do and things that you guys can also do on your own. There's a lot more companies popping up that help with this for individual agencies. You want to hit the next slide there?
I was trust me, I got you. We're there.
Oh, okay. All right. I was gonna say if you wanted to say something too.
No. I'm reading your mind. I got you.
Yeah. All right. So, okay. So I'm going back to, I'm going to pick on Megan here for just a sec. So, data strategy, right? You can see that there's a different pieces in terms of collecting data. You have the people, right? People are responsible for executing on a process, right? And those are the steps in a workflow, or it could be the stages in a sales pipeline. And then you have the process is then being formulated inside of the technology, right? And so this stream is creating data. So each one of these things has a part in the data management process. Look, I'll be the first one to tell you that there are opportunities within Vertafore technology that we know exist to improve data accuracy. And we are working on those things, right? It could be starting to standardize a list of carriers. It could be eliminating some of the manual entry. It could be data validation. It could be a number of different things, right? So that's the role technology plays. But there's also a role with the agent, right? And so you have to ask yourself, well, do I have a process that's well defined? Or when someone enters policy information, are they just willy-nilly entering whatever they want? Sometimes they enter the premium, sometimes they enter the revenue, sometimes they enter coverages, sometimes they don't, right? But is that process well defined? Because if the process isn't defined and the expectation isn't set for your team, no one is going to come to work and say, you know what I really want to do today? I want to make sure that Row Insurance has the best data that they possibly could have. No one says that, right? Nobody does. So you have to set that expectation for your team, and you've got to kind of figure out what data you want to be collecting and why. Then you have the people part, and this is actually the toughest part of the equation. It's the toughest part, because even though you set those expectations, guess what? Your team might fight back, right? They might say, well, but if I have to enter 3 more pieces of data, that workflow is going to take me 3 extra minutes. And I just don't want to do that, you know, or I might forget, or, you know, that just seems like too much work. And so part of this change management is working through with your team why this actually benefits them at the end of the day. Hey guys, when we enter this data properly, we can leverage automation more effectively in our agency. We can leverage AI more impactfully. We can actually see what is going on in the agency with each team member. You can see what each other's doing. You can see how the business is performing. You can see how you're contributing, right? And so if you don't have that conversation with them, there's more likely than not, you know, if you just say, hey, I need you to change your process, more likely than not, they're going to say, yeah, I'm not interested. So each one of these pieces has a really important part to making sure that you're collecting data properly, and it'll actually help improve your data accuracy within your agency.
Yeah, I would also add to that is the accountability piece of it would be huge on some of that too with your people, to make sure that they are following through and they are doing some of those things, and to find a way to do that as well.
Yeah. Yep. And if you want to go, go ahead.
Yeah. No, you're good. You're good.
Briefly touch on this, and then we'll get into why are we talking about data? I thought we were talking about AI. That they're one and the same, as you'll find out soon. Just very quickly, you know, take stock of where you're at as you're looking at this slide in terms of your data strategy. We try and there's probably more stages than this, but we try to keep it high level at Vertafore. Is the agency in a reactive state with the data strategy? Are they in a more informed state with their data, or are they in a smart state? And so you can kind of see how those lay out. And again, we'll record this, send it out to you, but take some stock on where you feel like you fit in you know, this timeline in the evolution.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Right. If you want to dive into this for a minute, and then we will let's go high level here for a minute, and then we'll get into the rest of it.
Yeah, so I'll give a high level, and then I'll answer 2 questions that I said I was going to answer right now. So data lakes. Remember when we looked at the first slide that showed how we merge data together, right? And the inaccuracies and issues. And I said, hey, you've got all this data in a bunch of systems. You have to merge it together. We call that a data lake. So there's a couple different versions, right? There's a public data lake, which is what you see with OpenAI, what ChatGPT is built off of. ChatGPT is the technology, so the algorithms that power the generative AI. The jet fuel, right? That's the plane. The jet fuel is the data. You cannot have an amazing ChatGPT without an amazing data lake. And actually, when you go into ChatGPT, and I don't know if it still says this because I haven't used it in a minute, but it used to say, hey, just FYI, what you see may not be accurate, right? You have to be careful of hallucinations from the tool, or just it pulling from an inaccurate database. And this was a question Kenneth asked. How do you know if the previous data is inaccurate or not. You don't, right? If you're going to ChatGPT and saying, is the world going to end tomorrow? Am I going to make $1 million? Well, what data do you have to base the answer off of, right? Private data lakes, this is what you saw when Apple announced, hilariously, they called their Apple Intelligence, which is their data strategy, they call it AI, which is just, kills me from a marketing perspective. They're so good, so good. But you saw that team talk about how Apple is actually creating a private data lake. It's the Apple data lake. And so, that is locked down. I mean, a few years ago, I remember a case where someone was murdered and the police said, hey, we think there's this suspect. This person is a suspect. They had an iPhone. We need to get into this iPhone so that we can build our case. And Apple said, nope, no way. That violates privacy. We're not going to let you in it. So even to that extreme, and this was a few years ago, so laws may have changed, but even when it was that extreme, it was still, the data was still locked down. So, you really have to remember, and this was a question that came in, let's see, someone had asked about, Shayna had asked about closed AI, right? So wanting to build a data lake within the agency, I think that is a very big dream, to want to build an agency data lake. What you'll probably run into is, one, do you have the volume of data to power AI within your agency? And then two, are you going to hire a data science team to clean that data up? Are you going to hire an AI, expert to build the plane, right? To power the jet fuel. Those are things you have to consider as you're saying, well, I need it to be super private. Totally understand. I think there are some, like Vertafore, we have a data lake that's private, it's locked down. We go through SOC 2 compliance to make sure that we're, meeting all the best practices in terms of privacy standards. So there's ways that you can ensure that you're, leveraging reliable and secure and private data sources without having to build a data lake yourself. It's just going through the due diligence of asking those questions. Hey, you guys built AI. What data are you pulling from? Where do you get that data? How do you store that data? What are your privacy and security measures in terms of sharing my data?
I was going to say there's a lot of that in the book that will be coming out, in the ebook. And then also really quickly, I want to plug one more thing, launch a poll. And then I want to spend the last 10 minutes really diving into the tools, because I see a lot of questions on that. So are you good on the lakes part?
Yep.
Okay, good. One of the things I will say is we did have a ChatGPT webinar that we did, several months back, that dives into some of this and how to write prompts and how to build some of this and some of the things you were talking about right now. So again, we could talk for an hour and a half about some of this stuff, but for time's sake, go find that. If you want some information on that, we can get that to you. You can go to our website and find it that way too. So just let us know. And we can get that to you if you need to. And there's a whole ebook on it. There's a whole webinar. We'd love to share that with you as well. While I'm talking here, I'd love to know, again, the rules. Let's get it to at least 80%. You guys have been crushing it so far. So let's keep rolling. I wonder if you have a data strategy currently. While that's going on, let's see how quickly we can get to 80% there so I can close that poll and share that with you. I do want to get into the implementation of AI. Again, I hate that word for some reason today. Implementation. It's a lot of syllables for an Arkansas boy, so I apologize. But getting into the implementation and talking about the tools that you can use. The title of that webinar. I don't know. Do you remember the title of that?
Yeah, top 10. You know what, Barry? I'm gonna type to you my email and we'll get you a recording of the webinar. Top 10 reasons.
Someone just beat you to it.
Yeah, Angie,
Sid, okay. I just tried to email you. Is it srow@vertafore.com? Yes, it is. Srow.
Yes, srow@vertafore.com. I'll put my email in the link and then or in the chat, and just feel free to email me.
Yeah, there you go. All right, we're at 75%. I'm about to close it down here in a minute. I'll leave it on for a few minutes longer, but let's get into this last 10 minutes. I want to get into the implementation of AI. So, what I want to get into here is, again, as you're talking through this, I'm going to fly through this one really quick. Let's just start with projects in sales. Let's look at, this is my suggestion. This is not a Vertafore stance, Heath Sharon stance. I would start in sales and look at, maybe you start with niches. We're in a hard market right now. We're, a tough situation for a lot of areas. Look at that. Let's figure out some niches that we can niche down into to help us out. Maybe you look at reshops, with everybody needing to reshop and your clients wanting some of that. Maybe you look at a way that you could implement AI within reshops, or helping you in that area. Maybe it's a new carrier. Maybe you brought in a new carrier. You're looking for a new carrier. You lost a carrier. Look for some AI to help you in that. Maybe you could type in a solution there. Maybe you could find something. I don't know. And then, looking for solutions on your service team, look for, again, a way to use AI to help you with reshops or certificates that she mentioned earlier, or endorsements. And then, combine them for cross-functional sales, solution training or service solution training, and bring the whole team together again. And so, I see some questions in here about, the link to the ChatGPT webinar. Maybe we can include that in the link for this webinar when we send that out. I can talk to our demand gen manager and see what we can do there. But I see you, Angie. I see you, Barry. We're going to get that to you. Thank you so much for staying involved on that. So again, here's the place I would start. Now, some of the tools, some of you guys have asked us specifically for tools. These are just tools to consider. Now, one of the things I want to break down in about a minute and a half. So I'm going to fly through this, Sid, but I would like to break down, because there's a big difference in AI as a product, and then there's AI as a feature. God, my voice got high there. I got excited again. That happens to me sometimes.
It's the pumpness.
It's the pumpness. So guys, I want to just high level. AI as a product is simple. I'll put it up here in the definition. It's a standalone tool where AI is at the core. They're designed from the ground up to automate processes or gather insights without needing any other features. So we're talking ChatGPT, Copilot, Grammarly. Some of you guys are already using Grammarly. So if you think, I don't have any AI in my agency, yeah, you do. You've already got it with Grammarly if you're using that. Or Dolly, Midjourney, which is, using photos or pictures or whatever it might be, graphics, so to speak. And then there's Synthesia. See, if you heard this one or tried this one, by the way, you might think of that. That's a video platform.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say, there's actually a really quick, crazy story. There's an agency that figured out how to automate turning Google reviews into video social media posts. And so he used a combination of obviously Google, Zapier, Facebook and LinkedIn, and Synthesia, or Synthesia, whatever, you probably know better than I how to pronounce it, Heath. And basically, as soon as the Google review comes in, it triggers, it sends it over to Synthesia. Synthesia records it with an AI person, and then Zapier automatically posts that on social media, which is that used to be a marketer's job, Heath.
Yep.
And now it's fully automated, leveraging AI. It's just crazy.
Isn't that crazy? Yes. So AI as a product, I hope you all understand that that's just built from the ground up in AI. AI as a feature is, where it's not the core offering, but it is a feature. So you may have some tech in your agency right now that's starting to introduce some AI, and you'll see some of that even with Vertafore products that we're going to start introducing Gen AI or AI as a feature. And so examples of that would be like Google Photos. If you search something in Google and you go to it, it'll show you some AI around it. Or Spotify's recommendation engine, or Amazon's recommendation engine, or one of my favorites is Hotjar, which, it's a way to search what people are looking at on your website. Now they've brought in Hotjar AI, where it'll show you some analytics and help you to build out some more based around those findings and the data they find from what they're looking at on your website. These are, again, not recommendations. These are examples. So just hear me out on that. Now, I want to dive into really quick. Some of you asked, so what are some, AI as a product and AI as a feature tools to consider specific to insurance? So again, looking at it from a standalone tool, We've done webinars. We got a friendship with Lula and Gail, and they're actually coming on, in a deeper level as we keep moving on. And then another one of our orange partners is Arias Analytics with a company or a product called Donna, which if you have not looked into Donna, that is excuse my language, badass product you've got to look into. We're so proud to be partnered with them. Same thing with Gail. Some of you have heard of Lemonade. They are another example of AI as a product within our space. Perfect Quote, I believe they're another orange partner of ours that uses AI. Donna, Hannah, I don't know if you want to, or Sid, if you have a chance to jump in there and explain Donna a little bit to Hannah in the chats. But Donna is a tool that helps. I'll let Sid answer that in the chat so I can keep going through here. But we can connect you and introduce you to Donna. If you go to our orange partner page, you can find out more. So incredible. But it helps you with understanding your okay, thank you. Hannah said thank you. Okay, so AI as a feature would be, again, where it's not the core offering, but it is a feature. We've got connections with Gaia, which is a great example of this, or Lightspeed Voice, which a lot of you may have a VoIP system, but now Lightspeed Voice is introducing AI into some of that. Canopy Connect is another one that has AI as a feature, which helps you collect deck pages and information and driver list and all kinds of things. And then they could turn that into some really cool, data features for you. And then Leo, again, a good friend of the program, so to speak, a friend of Vertafore. They help you gather leads, and they help you do things beyond that with some really cool AI features. To give you a little more information on that, we've got, again, Gail, which is, they use voice. They have the very first and only, from what I understand, generative AI that has passed the insurance exam in some states. So they are a licensed AI. And so you're like, oh, that's scary. But what they're doing is really awesome. And they're so careful with it. And I was on a tech panel discussion with some of the staff there and with Tito there. And he was like, we haven't even released all the capabilities of it because we want to make sure that we protect our customers. And so we want to continue on A/B testing. And they're so careful with it because they come from our space. And that's another thing is looking when you're asking questions, sidebars, if they're coming from our insurance space, they're going to probably have a better handle on AI for insurance as opposed to somebody coming from outside of our space saying, oh, here's an opportunity. That's just my own soapbox. Patra, however you pronounce that. Another way, specifically, using quoting and renewal workflows and protecting against E&O exposures. Very, very cool. Again, orange partner. Total CSR. If you want to dive into this, I just took over. Sorry, I'm just talking fast, but Total CSR. I'm going to take a breath if you want to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, no, so you were kind of right on Gale being the only, I would say the only competitor would be Total CSR. They also have a conversational AI agent. But to your point, Gale has actually passed the insurance exam. Total CSR's AI agent has not. So it's mainly an internal supportive tool that you can imagine like a chat GPT that answers insurance specific questions.
Where are we at today? While I'm taking a breath, because I talked a lot there. Where are we at today?
Yeah, so love it. Okay, so today, in terms of AI, we have Smart Search available inside Agency Zoom, also coming to Agency One. It's a more powerful search functionality that allows you to dynamically, pull up really any different content within the system from a search bar. So just a really powerful tool. I know, it felt like when I was working in my dad's agency, half of what I did was just answer people's questions, if they're calling in or if I'm already on the phone with them. So really powerful tool in the insurance agency. We also have two other things coming in 2025. So one is AI powered workflows. This is where we're taking insights from tools like Aureus Analytics, so Donna, also Risk Match, our analytics solution. And we're using those insights to power tools like Agency Zoom. So instead of pulling a list of cross-sell opportunities and starting from A, now you can start from the cross-sell opportunity that's most likely to close, the renewal opportunity that's most likely to churn. So just trying to use those insights to make our day a little bit more productive and efficient. Smart CRM over on the right-hand side is also coming in 2025. Essentially, it allows you to use AI to create pipelines inside of Agency Zoom and then also create emails. So we'll integrate ChatGPT into that email view, and you can say, hey, write me an email, nurture campaign for restaurants in the discovery process of an insurance sales cycle. And it'll
Great example.
create, 3 to 5 emails for you. So you don't have to, Heath, I feel like we rarely write emails nowadays with ChatGPT. So
Right.
great tool.
Unbelievable. And I love to see that 100% of you guys want to learn more about where we are headed with AI. I didn't mean to interrupt you with that, but I had to get that poll out there before we stopped. And then I did put in the chat, we do have a few minutes we can go over. So if anybody has any last minute questions or chat comments, jump in now. Or if there's something you want to go back to, Sid, let me know.
I was going to say, just really quick, I'll just finish up on Vertafore's AI strategy. We now have some generative AI experience on the team that's been hired in the last 6 months. And we've formed a committee around generative AI. It's actually sponsored by Amy Zupon, our CEO, and supported by Roper, the company that owns us. So, artificial intelligence and how we implement it into Vertafore products is a huge, huge, huge priority for us coming into 2025. So much so that we've invested resources into it. There's a few things we're working on that I can't talk about today. But they're coming. We'll just put it that way. I think the biggest thing is we didn't want to rush into it. For those of you who are saying, well, there's so many other products that we just looked at that have artificial intelligence already. Why isn't Vertafore there? Yeah, you have to be careful with this stuff, right? I mean, it's amazing technology. There's also unintended consequences around using AI. And when we collect so much personal information from our clients, we have a very high bar to make sure that that's secure. We honor privacy, and we're doing things the right way.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed that as much as we did. And maybe you got some wheels turning in your head. Maybe you just got some good ideas that you can implement in your agency. That's our hopes with all of these podcasts and webinars and content that we put out. We really hope that you enjoyed it as much as we did. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us.